Hello, everyone, and welcome to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. Thank you for being here with me. Hope you're having a tremendous Sunday. Hope you're having a lot of fun watching baseball. So we've been enjoying watching these rookie quarterbacks go get it. We've watched players like Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, all of these Cowboys rookies we have enjoyed during the preseason, so hope you have too. And of course, tonight here on the show, we'll be talking about the Dallas Cowboys and their preseason game against the Arizona Cardinals. I will share some takeaways with you, and of course, I will talk about the injuries that the Cowboys suffered, because that was maybe the only way you can lose a preseason game in the NFL, in my opinion. Like truly lose beyond the scoreboard is if you walk out of there with significant injuries, and that's what happens to the Cowboys, unfortunately. And we'll get into some defensive tackle Cowboys might be interested in adding after the next injury, and then I will share with you some of my main takes from a game that, I will be honest with you, I did not walk away from the Cowboys-Cardinals game with a lot of major takeaways. I did not walk out of it with, some takeaways, of course, but we'll get into those. But first, let me ask you to share the show. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, thank you I appreciate you being here on Z Sports Dallas Primetime. Thank you, Kevin, for being here, saying maybe Atkins, getting ahead of ourselves there, Kevin, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Thank you, MG, for also being here. I hope we can sign Geno Atkins. A lot of people will bring up, and of course, myself, as you can see here on the screen, is it Geno season or is it other defensive tackle who could be interesting to Dallas Cowboys? Thank you, Mike, for being on the building. Thank you, Mike, and congratulations for that check mark on Twitter. Don't think we didn't catch it. Congrats on that. And Jack, been waiting for you, Mora. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Jack, for being here on the show. Well, now that more of us are here, we can start the show off officially. So welcome to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. I'm Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night here on Dallas On-Demand Sports Talk Network, with a lot more content coming your way for the Cowboys 2021 season. Make sure you head over to ADCSportsDallas.com, because we have a lot of content out there, and I hope you enjoy it. We have articles by Colt Patterson, of course, Skywalker Steele, Adam Holt. Over there you have Ian also working on Dallas Mavericks for those of you who are Mavs fans. And of course, you can read myself over there on ADCSportsDallas.com. So make sure you check that out. Well, a lot of injuries, unfortunately, on that Friday night game versus the Cardinals. And we can get to a lot of them, but we do not have a lot of details on them yet. Probably tomorrow morning, when the Cowboys start putting this information out there, since it's Monday. And of course, now that they're back in Dallas-Fort Worth, they will probably be doing these medical evaluations. Well, more than anything in Frisco, right, where the star is. But the Cowboys are done in Oxnard. They are back in their homes. So maybe that also changes a little bit of the dynamic going forward in Cowboys training camp. The Cowboys still have 2 preseason games left. Next Saturday, they will be playing their in-state rivals, the Houston Texans. But before we get into that, let's talk about the injuries. I'm going to leave the Neville Gallimore one until the end, not of the show, but until the end of this segment. But there were a lot of injuries in the game. There was Sean McKeon, who suffered an injury that might cost him his opportunity to be on the Cowboys 53-man roster. He was fighting Jeremy Sprinkle. It was a tough battle between the young tight end and the veteran tight end, and being away for a few weeks might be enough to make the Cowboys decide that Sean McKeon should go to IR, for example, and give the edge to the veteran. We'll see if that actually happens. There have been a few people, someone speculated, I cannot remember who was it, who reported that McKeon is going to miss between 4 and 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. So that seems to be the case for Sean McKeon. Malik Turner, I have not been able to find any kind of timetable for the wide receiver, but another player that suffers an injury, and it's a tough blow for a guy that was making it tough for the Dallas Cowboys at the wide receiver position. And with an injury, and let's get into this, He suffered a turf toe injury, according to none other than the legend Brian Broaddus. He did not offer any kind of timetable, though, and probably we will hear about it in the next few days. But it's a tough blow for Malik Turner, because Malik Turner was fighting for that wide receiver 6 spot on the Cowboys roster versus probably the rookie Simi Fehoko, behind Noah Brown, Cedric Wilson, and the starter. So probably his main competitor was Simi Fehoko, and Fehoko had a strong showing versus the Cardinals for the first time in the training camp, in the preseason. He was able to put up some noise. So probably this will be enough to maybe take Malik Turner out of the picture, unless it's a minor injury and he's able to find his way back to the playing field soon enough. I like DALvsAZ, Estefan, and Bohanna. I think they can hold it down till Neville gets back, and we'll get into those defensive tackles in just a few minutes. But I like where Teflon's mind is at. This is quickly becoming the real deal with these key injuries on defense, says Jack. And it's a big deal because the Cowboys defense it's not at a good spot. And listen, I know that the Cowboys fans and Cowboys fans in general, are excited about the way the Cowboys added 8 defensive players in 11 draft picks, and the signings that the Cowboys made in free agency, and of course the fact that they brought in defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. I get the excitement around all of that. However, the Cowboys defense is far from a legit unit yet, and with all of these injuries, it's going to be a little bit tougher maybe for them to bounce back in 2021. Randy Gregory, by the way, he did not play versus the Cardinals. He wanted to play, but the Cowboys sent him back home in order for him to get ahead of a foot injury that he's been dealing with himself. It does not sound like a serious issue, but still, you don't want to hear about a new Randy Gregory injury in the same week that you see Neville Gallimore go down injured in a preseason game. I agree, says Jersey. Thank you, Jersey, for being here. Oza and Bohanna, Brent Irvin can get it done until Gallimore gets back. Kyle says roll tide. Simi gets protected now, and Turner can be slid to practice squad, and we get to keep him until he's back. Probably. And let's sign Geno Atkins. So as you can see, we're going to be all over the place with the opinions on tonight's show, probably, which is a good thing in my opinion. But yeah, the Neville Gallimore injury was by far the most serious one. Neville Gallimore suffered an elbow injury. People were saying that he suffered an hyperextension. And then first, Rapchit came out with the report on his dislocated dislocated elbow. And he said he's going to miss between 4 and 6 weeks. So when we heard that timetable, when we heard 4 and 6 weeks, I think we were kind of relieved, because it sounded like the best case scenario for Neville Gallimore. 4 and 6 weeks, the regular season is still 3 weeks away from right now. So we were excited because of that. Then Todd Archer from ESPN came out with a conflicting report, and he said it's going to be 6 and 8 weeks. Now, there's a major difference there. If we take the 4 and the 8, we're talking about a 4-week span that just completely changed on the timetable. So I'm leaning towards believing Todd Archer's report more than Ian Rappaport's report, and I trust both of these guys a lot with what they do. They are two of the best at the business, but the fact that you're talking about Todd Archer being the local reporter and probably more involved with the Cowboys organization, I'm leaning towards believing Archer more than I do Rappaport. So I'm going to be working with the 6 to 8 weeks report that Archer put out there and ESPN put out there. So let's say that Neville Gallimore misses 6 weeks. I understand the fact, and this is the first question of the show. Should the Cowboys ride with Oza Odigizua, or should they go out there and sign an outside defensive tackle? Should they get help in free agency, or just trust what the Cowboys already have on the 5th 3-man roster and go with Oza, go with Quinton Bohanna, who's a one-tech, but go with them and Brent Irvin and Carlos Watkins and the guys that we already know. I understand the idea of trusting these players, and I understand where that feeling is coming from. It's coming from the fact that Osa has been having a strong camp, and he had a very strong preseason game against the Cardinals. And of course, he also showed up versus the Steelers. However, even though I'm excited about Osa, I think that the Cowboys need to go get some help at defensive tackle. I am excited about the third-round rookie. I think he will do a good job. I'm not sure about the down-to-down consistency, and I'm not sure about the Cowboys' depth at defensive tackle. This might be the worst unit in the Dallas Cowboys team after Neville Gallimore's injury, in my opinion. And you could have made an argument that it was already the weakest unit on the Dallas Cowboys. Behind Neville Gallimore, there are not a lot of options to replace the starting three technique defensive tackle. And if Neville is going to miss, say, 4 games, for example, that's going to be tough to work with, that defensive line that the Cowboys have right now. So here are some of the players that maybe I was thinking about the Cowboys could go get, because a lot of people are thinking about Geno Atkins, and of course it makes perfect sense. Geno Atkins worked with the Cowboys doctor, and he actually made the surgery on Geno Atkins. So really things fit in, right? And it makes a lot of sense to believe that Geno Atkins could be involved with the Cowboys. However, there are more options out there in free agency, and we'll get into some of those and why, in my opinion, all of this could work. Now, keep in mind that whoever you bring in to the Cowboys organization, whether it's Geno Atkins or another of the defensive tackles that we'll get into, it does not matter who you bring in. He's not going to be a full-time starter. You're just going to add to the rotation, and you're just going to add some depth to one of the worst units on the Dallas Cowboys. And maybe you're still playing Osa a lot, but probably you don't want Osa to be your 3-down starter. And I think that we can all agree on that, even though we like where Osa is headed, and even though we like Osa Odighizuwa's future. Over here we have just keep Hill for depth till Gallimore is ready, says Jack. And Hill, we have seen very little from Hill, of course, because of the injury and stuff. RB Nightmare, thank you for joining us, says with Gallimore and Hill down, I can see us moving Irvin and Watkins inside. I think both of these guys are going to play inside either way. They are defensive tackles for the Dallas Cowboys. But a guy like Brent Irvin can play maybe 3 technique and 1 technique, probably. Quest, well, thank you. Thank you for your comment. This kid is good, but where is Skywalker? Thank you, Quest. Remember, we have Z Sports Dallas Primetime every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. And Skywalker is on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. You do not have to memorize these days for a long time, because it's starting in September. You will be seeing each of us 5 days per week. So you will be watching Skywalker from Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Central Time, and you will be watching myself from Sunday to Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Time. So I hope you enjoy what we're doing over at Z Sports Dallas, and I hope you continue to enjoy, and of course, the experience that you're going to get out of Z Sports Dallas is going to be special. And I'm entirely sure, 100% confident that you will enjoy it a lot. So Stevie Mack, thank you for being here. By the way, I had not seen you, Stevie Mack. Sign Geno Atkins and Oliver Burnham, throw as many darts at the board as possible, because we need that D-line popping this season. So Stevie actually brings up a very strong point. We're talking about signing 1 defensive tackle, but the Cowboys might need to bring 1 or 2 veteran defensive tackles. RV Nightmare saying, don't sleep on Justin Hamilton, especially with Neville Gallimore gone. He could be one of those players that ends up making the roster. So here are some options for the Dallas Cowboys at defensive tackle. Now, I know some of these will be controversial. And Geno Atkins, of course, we're talking about a player that at his best was perhaps one of the best at his position in the entire NFL. He's not going to be that guy anymore, probably. Geno Atkins, already a long-time veteran in the NFL. I think he had only 1 tackle in 8 games in 2020. But Geno Atkins is still one of those players that you can count on, in my opinion, even if he's just part of a rotation. He's not going to be the same Atkins. Do not expect, if the Cowboys end up signing Geno, do not expect to see him come in and just be a 3-down player for the Dallas Cowboys defense. I believe he's not going to be able to do so. You have Gerald Casey, who's a 5-time Pro Bowler. The Broncos cut Casey to free up $12 million in cap space earlier this year. But Gerald Casey might be able to be a strong player for the Dallas Cowboys if they decide to bring him in. Kawan Short, Kawan Short would be, I know Kawan Short will be one of the most controversial players, but if the Cowboys are not going to bring in Atkins, if they're not going to bring in Casey, at least bring in the experience. Now, why would Short be controversial? He underwent shoulder surgery last October, missed the entire season after that. 5 games. He has played only 5 games in the past couple of years because in 2018, he also had shoulder surgery in a different shoulder. So probably not an ideal situation health-wise for Kawan Short, but still a veteran that can bring a lot of experience to an unexperienced defensive line. Damon Harrison, obviously a different position from Neville Gallimore. We're talking about a nose tackle here, but maybe just get some options to move around your pieces or the players that you already have on your 53-man roster and play around with your defensive line. Snacks, we know what he brings to the table, and maybe he could be a potential game changer for the Dallas Cowboys in the rotation. And finally, Caleb Brantley, a younger player. I think he's 26 years old now. He opted out the 2020 season, and he has not been able to gain a lot of experience, or at least not as much as he was expecting when he got into the NFL. He was going to be a high draft pick, probably a second rounder or a third rounder, but a lot of the off-the-field issues came up, and Caleb Brantley fell in his respective NFL draft. But these are just some defensive tackles that the Cowboys could be interested in if they want to get some help in the defensive line after losing Neville Gallimore. Even though the 6 to 8 weeks span is not a brutal one, it could have been worse. It could have been a season-ending injury for Neville Gallimore. Even though the fact that it isn't is good news, well, I would get some help because I really do not trust where the Cowboys are right now on the defensive line. Jack says Chauncey Golston will be in the mix as soon as well. And Chauncey Golston is an interesting wild card there because even though Chauncey is probably going to be a defensive end first and foremost for the Dallas Cowboys, he brings in some interesting experience into playing outside and inside. So probably, as Jack is saying, Golston will be involved soon. However, his injury makes me think that he's a potential IR candidate for the Dallas Cowboys once the season begins. We will see. Chris says cornerback is also a concern. Kelvin Joseph struggled. My man Kelvin Joseph had a couple of back-to-back negative plays versus the Cardinals. To be specific, as he lined up against Christian Kirk, he was burnt in one, and then the flag came in the next play. So not an ideal set of plays there for Kelvin Joseph, and probably a little bit of a I don't know. You know how we've been talking about Anthony Brown and getting rid of Anthony Brown? Maybe those couple of plays served as a reminder like, okay, I know that Anthony Brown is not that special, but maybe that's why the Cowboys are going to keep him, because I truly believe that the Cowboys are going to keep Anthony Brown, and it's probably because of that. My wife yells at people who don't use turn signals as if it cost a quarter, lol. Same difference, says Jack. Yeah, exactly. So that's a good point, by the way. DJ Doc says maybe those free agent dollars those free agency dollars for a backup center like Austin Ryder, who's 29 and last played for the Chiefs. And Austin Ryder is still a free agent and perhaps the best free agent in the entire NFL available right now. My life story with this channel, lol, hitting a button is too hard, apparently, says Stevie Mac. Yeah, if you're watching the show, we will appreciate you hitting that like button and, of course, sharing with your friends. And if you know any other Cowboys fans, which I'm sure you do, make sure you let them know. That's going to be your homework for tonight. Let them know about ADC Sports Dallas. Let them know that, hey, there's a channel out there and there's a site out there that's putting out these morning shows and night shows. Make sure you go follow them. That's going to be your homework for tonight. And thank you all, and thank you, Stevie, of course. I think we should be more concerned with swing tackle rather than defensive tackle at this point, says Jersey Duchess. By the way, another of the injuries, tying second at offensive tackle. And that injury really brings a lot of question marks up, a lot of questions, because Ty was not playing well. He did not play well against the Steelers, and in my opinion, he was not looking great against the Arizona Cardinals. When the Cowboys brought in Ty, he was probably expected by most of us to be the Cowboys swing tackle during the regular season. And maybe the guy who could bring the most competition out of him was fourth-round rookie Josh Ball, but he hasn't been able to practice a lot as he's been dealing with an injury. So the Cowboys might be in a little bit of a pickle there at the offensive swing tackle position. And I agree with what what Jersey was saying there in the chat. Maybe we should be concerned about that swing tackle spot, because Terrence Steele and Brandon Knight, they're developmental players that the Cowboys want to continue to groom. But Brandon Knight has been playing a lot of football in the inside as well, because he has not been executing perfectly at tackle. So Connor Williams should have been a thought at swing tackle at the start of the preseason. And of course, Connor Williams, who played tackle when he was in college, it would have made a lot of sense. And actually, the Guru had said that before. Why not Williams at swing offensive tackle and McGovern at center back in OTAs, says the Guru. And let's take this and let's move on to the next topic. Just to close out my thoughts of defensive tackle, I think that even though we like what we're seeing from Osa, I would really like the Cowboys to get some help at defensive tackle, be it for depth or be it for a starter, because the Cowboys right now are at a terrible position in this position. Now, moving on to the Cowboys-Cardinals games and the takeaways that we can get from that matchup, I wanted to talk just about that the Guru was mentioning in the chat. Why not Williams at swing offensive tackle and McGovern at center in OTAs? One of my biggest takeaways for the Cowboys-Cardinals game was, let's just shut the Connor Williams project down. The center Connor Williams project, let's just forget about it, in my opinion. Connor Williams had a couple of bad snaps, and I really do not blame number 52 for them. This is the first experience that he's getting at center, because he's not a center. He played tackle when he was in Texas. Then he moved to guard when he got with the Dallas Cowboys. And now that they want to try him at center, I really do not understand why. And I really think we do not know yet why. And I get the Guru's comments saying that McGovern at center back in OTAs. Why have we not seen Connor McGovern play at center yet? And I think it's a very valid question, but right now, I think that there are some possibilities here. Number one, the Cowboys could really believe that McGovern is a better guard than Connor Williams, and maybe they just want to make sure that in any case, Connor Williams maybe can be serviceable as a backup at guard and center. Maybe that's it, or maybe the Cowboys do not like McGovern at all at center, and that really would make a lot of sense to me, because it's weird that we have not seen McGovern there yet. I don't like what the Cowboys are doing with the offensive line and what they are doing with Connor Williams, because I think that Connor Williams is a good offensive guard. Maybe he does not look great as the other Cowboys offensive linemen like Zach Martin and Tyron Smith and Lyle Collins, but I think that Zach Martin was very improved in 2020. And I think that, for example, in the Cardinals game, we were watching Connor Williams execute quality blocks, but the issues came when he was snapping the ball because, well, he had not done so before in an actual NFL game. So they gave him a lot of reps versus the Cardinals, and we will see if the Cowboys move on with this project or if they continue to do so. So that's just a weird thing that I do not like about the Cowboys-Cardinals game, and I think that most of us can agree with that. The Connor Williams project is weird, and at least I would like to get some answers as to why it is happening in the first place. Center depth is Biadish and McGovern. McGovern rated better than Connor Williams at center, says RV Nightmare. And maybe we thought that before the offseason and the training camp, But what the Cowboys are showing us is something different. What the Cowboys are showing us, it looks like it's that they think that Connor Williams is their actual backup at center, and that they think he can be a better backup. Why are we playing Connor Williams more at center than swing tackle? It's not like he played it in college or anything, says RV Nightmare. Exactly. And maybe and maybe it's because of that. Maybe it's because they feel like McGovern can be a better guard. I really don't know. I'm speculating here, but I don't like it again. Thank you, McCartney, for being here. It's kind of rare hearing you talking in English, but I got to say you do a good job. Thank you, Payo, for being here on this show, and thank you for joining us on Z Sports Dallas Primetime. Same old, same old. Glad to see football back, says Quest. I've got a lot of catching up to do. Well, let's start with that Connor Williams thing. I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. But more takeaways that I had from the Cowboys-Cardinals game. And if you can see, number one was actually shut down the Connor Williams experiment, because I truly believe it. We'll see if they do or if they don't. But another of the takeaways was Dorance Armstrong really showed up versus the Cardinals. And I think he's now a roster lock. He probably was already well on his way to be one, but I had my doubts from time to time whether or not Dorance Armstrong was going to make the 53-man roster, especially back in May when the Cowboys had drafted Chauncey Golson. And, I had the doubt of how much would Bradley and I actually would do in the preseason, and maybe Rondell Carter stepping up for the Cowboys in the offseason. So I was thinking, hey, maybe Armstrong, who already has a few years with the Dallas Cowboys, maybe he's gone after 2021. But right now, it looks like he will not be gone. It looks like he's a roster lock at this point, in my opinion, especially after a strong performance versus the Cardinals. Carter also making a push. And Rondell Carter is a guy that the Cowboys like a lot, and the Cowboys front office has been fixed in on this guy for a long time. Of course, remember that he was on practice squad, and then the Colts poached him from the Cowboys practice squad, and then the Cowboys went and got him back. So I'm looking forward to the Cowboys and their decision on Rondell Carter, especially now that Bradley and I looked good, as Jack is saying in the chat. And if you get Chauncey Golson back, one of these players is going to be left out. And I'm not entirely who's that odd man out. Is it Dorance Armstrong? No, I don't think it's Armstrong. But is it Rondell Carter or Bradley and I? Or is it, Chauncey Golson is not going to be cut, but is Chauncey Golson going to start the season in IR, for example? Is he going to go to injured reserve before being activated to the 53-man roster? And I was making noise even with the penalties, says RV Nightmare. Oh, that penalty was a very disappointing one for Bradley and I, but the play he made. So we're not going to forget about that. And now, regarding the defensive tackle position, of course, Osa Odighizuwa making some noise. And he had 4 stops, 4 QB hurries, if I'm not mistaken. But he's been having a very good preseason so far. And Osa is making some fans feel comfortable with the notion that if Neville Gallimore is not ready, maybe he's enough to go out there and just do his best job. But I think that the Cowboys still need help from a veteran defensive tackle, even though I like what Osa is showing us so far. But those would be my biggest takeaways before we move on to the main takeaway from Cowboys Nation, probably. And that is one from Jaylon Smith that we're not going to like. Sky seems to be here in the chat. I'm not entirely sure if that's Sky, but I'm going to assume he is. Do you think it would be too early in the preseason for the Cowboys to play their first unit, the full first quarter? If we're talking about the game against the Arizona Cardinals, I don't think it would be too early in the preseason because, as you all know, usually you would get the dress rehearsal game in the third game of the preseason. And because the Cowboys played the Steelers, this is going to be like their third week. I think I'm going to say that maybe it is too early because of the fact that Dak Prescott is still dealing with his injury. So speaking specifically about the Cowboys offense, I'm going to say that even though the Cowboys want Dak to play versus the Texans, and even though they have put out some comments out there saying that it's a possibility, if they're being overly cautious with Dak, maybe they want to wait until the final game, and maybe they want to wait for Dak Prescott to be back before they play Tyron Smith and Zach Martin and Ezekiel Elliott. Maybe. I don't see why you would put out your starters out there on offense if Dak Prescott is not going to play. Like, if Dak's not playing, I don't want to see Ezekiel Elliott. I don't want to see Amari Cooper. That's just me. And I don't want to see Tyron Smith, probably. I want Tyron Smith to be out there when Dak Prescott is out there. So it could be, I guess we will wait and see. But judging by what the Cowboys have been saying, if there's one preseason game in which they're going to play their starters the most, it's probably going to be in that game against the Texans. But it might be too early, even still, specifically, not because of the calendar, but because of Dak Prescott's injury. I think we're still going to see a lot from the Cowboys starting defense, though, because the Cowboys starting defense needs the reps, right? It's not like on offense that you already kind of know what you have. You need Kelvin Joseph to keep playing, and you need Deshaun Wright to keep playing, and all of these guys to play as much as they can. Maybe they end up a little bit scared after the Neville Gallimore injury, though. Snacks Harrison, he say locally, is not, says Jack. I believe he is, but I'm not entirely sure. They may move Osa to trick tech until Gallimore returns, but what about Tristan Hill's status, is the guru? I think Osa will be your trick tech either way. Like, even with Gallimore healthy, we were expecting Osa to be a trick tech for the Dallas Cowboys, so I agree there. Osa, Micah, and Wright have had solid camps. Joseph, Cox, Mukwamu, and Vana have been up and down. And Javril Cox had a very strong performance against the Cardinals, by the way. I loved what we saw from Cox in pass coverage, to be specific. I missed a comment that people did not enjoy. But, well, I will have to catch up on that one after that. This is Big Sky, says William. Thank you, Sky, for being here, by the way. And, well, any more takeaways beyond the fact that Gilbert hasn't settled my backup QB worries, as the Guru is saying? I agree with that. I am not happy with Garrett Gilbert. I mean, he's a backup quarterback, and I get that if Dak Prescott goes down for an extended period of time, the Cowboys are going to be done probably in season, whether it's Garrett Gilbert or any other guy. But right now, I will be surprised if the Cowboys add some player to the Cowboys roster at the quarterback position. I think that they're going to stay put with Garrett Gilbert. So the biggest takeaway, and I did not include it in the graphic, but probably one of the biggest moments that has been discussed in, that ain't Skywalker, says CD Piglet. Is Big Sky like someone else? That ain't Skywalker, says CD Piglet. Well, hey guys, I'm sorry, but I'm not Skywalker still, says William. Okay, we got the clarification there. Thank you. I'm still new to the YouTube community. I'm getting to know all of you, so I'm sorry about that. I'm his dad, so that's why Big Sky. So I thought about it, but I didn't want to say it. So there we go. I'm getting to know the YouTube community, and now I know Sky's dad. Thank you, Big Sky, for being here on the show. Sky Senior, let's call him, probably. I'm his dad, says William. Well, thank you for being here. And I'm glad that I'm getting to know better the YouTube community. I'm glad about that. So one of the biggest moments on the Cowboys-Cardinals game, and one of the moments that has been discussed the most, was Jaylon Smith in coverage of Chase Edmonds, running back from the Arizona Cardinals. It was a bad moment for Jaylon Smith, and it really was just one play, but it probably served like a microcosm of what has happened with Jaylon Smith since 2019. And the fact is that Jaylon Smith looked slow on that play. And for those of you who don't know what play I'm talking about, we're talking about a 3rd and short situation for the Cardinals on offense. And then Colt McCoy fakes the handoff to Chase Edmonds. And by the way, let's make it clear, it was a very bad fake. Like, it was clear that that was not going to be going towards Chase Edmonds. And then Edmonds runs to the flat as a receiver, and Jaylon Smith really fails in this play. It was a big fail for Jaylon, in my opinion. Some people on Twitter have been trying to defend number 9, saying that maybe it was not his assignment, Maybe his assignment was to contain. But honestly, if we look at the play carefully, I'm not entirely sure that Jaylon took anyone in that play. Like, if the argument is that he had to take the quarterback, well, he apparently didn't. And he also did not take Chase Edmonds. And forget about that reaction situation. Once he already reacted, he moves slow. And there's one point in which he finally changes direction and his hips are finally facing the sidelines. And then Leighton Vander Esch, who is over at Mike, he makes it to Chase Edmonds before Jaylon Smith. So we're watching Jaylon react slowly and play slowly at the linebacker position. And before the season began, before the offseason began, I was looking forward to Jaylon competing against Michael Parsons, against Leighton Vander Esch and Keanu Neal. But right now, it seems to me that maybe he's only competing against Jabril Cox to be the linebacker 5 or the linebacker 6 in the Dallas Cowboys roster. So that was actually one of my other questions from me to you guys. Right now, is Jaylon Smith linebacker 4, linebacker 5, or other? Because I cannot put him above Parsons, above Leighton Vander Esch, and above Keanu Neal, even though the Cowboys decided against picking up Leighton's fifth-year option. They decided against it. But right now, Leighton seems to have a more defined role with the Dallas Cowboys defense. And I think that at this point, Jaylon Smith is probably going to be it after 2021. Like, he's probably going to be gone after this season from the Dallas Cowboys. It's not easy to get rid of him, financially speaking, in 2021, so I do not expect the Cowboys to do so. But if there's one thing that made Jaylon Smith an interesting prospect, it was his athletic abilities, and I don't see them anymore on the field for Jaylon Smith. And I don't see him being a very instinctive player or having great reaction and great change of direction. I just do not see that. So I think that Jaylon Smith at this point might be linebacker 5 for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, interesting that Stevie Mack says Jaylon is my linebacker 6 at this point. Linebacker 4 until Cox proves otherwise, says Jersey. I'm between 4 and 5, definitely. And, all right, my official answer, even though right here is saying linebacker 5 only playing because of contract, I'm going to say linebacker 4. I'm leaning towards Jabril Cox ending the season as linebacker 4, but right now we have not seen him play that much on defense. So Jabril Cox also has a long way to go before solidifying himself in the Dallas Cowboys linebacker rotation. But I'm going to stay with linebacker 4 for now. But forget about being above Leighton Vander Esch and forget about being above Keanu Neal. For example, MJ here is saying he looks better than LVE to me. I strongly disagree. I strongly disagree there. I think that even though the thing about Leighton is the health aspect of things, like, is he going to remain healthy or not? That's the thing about Vander Esch. Otherwise, I don't see a Jaylon Smith that can claim to be a better linebacker than Leighton Vander Esch right now. At least Leighton is showing up. And he's showing up his speed and his reaction, in my opinion, even though he's not that guy from 2018. None of them are. Leighton is not the 2018 Leighton Vander Esch that we saw as a rookie, and Jaylon is not the Jaylon that we saw in 2018 either. So Cox has shown better ink since then. Jaylon says RB Nightmare. I think he has shown that potential, but he's still developing, as that guru is saying. But we are still a linebacker depth, only suitable backup in Keanu Neal, while Cox is still developing. And I know a lot of people are going to look at Keanu Neal as a backup. I'm not entirely sure he's going to be just that yet. I think that we're going to see a lot of rotation between Leighton Vander Esch and Keanu Neal. We have seen a lot of Keanu Neal in third and long situations alongside Michael Parsons, so that's going to be a very fun group to watch during the regular season. But if there's one thing that has been made more than clear, is that Parsons is the top guy at the Cowboys linebacker room. Even as a rookie, he is the top guy. He has a green dot on his helmet. He's the Mike. He's very athletic. He's shown up in pass coverage, which was probably one of the biggest concerns regarding Parsons as a draft prospect. We were wondering how much would he have to learn in order to be a serviceable linebacker in the pass coverage aspect of football, and he's been able to show up in the preseason at least. LVE has much better instincts and reaction. Over here we have Jaylon should probably change the name of his sunglasses companies at this point because that guy does not have a clear eye view. Stevie Mack just going for the kill in that comment. I enjoyed that. The Cowboys are prioritizing coverage skill for the linebacker position no more than ever. Jaylon is the weakest at coverage. And NFL teams are going to be more than aware of that. NFL teams are going to look at that tape after Jaylon Smith challenged the media to look at that tape. NFL teams are going to find out that Jaylon Smith is a liability for the Dallas Cowboys when they have to defend the pass. So his $9.8 million cap number is a rough one, but let's hope that the Cowboys do not look at that number and let it influence their decisions, because Jaylon Smith should be on the bench. That's just the way it is. And it sucks because Jaylon Smith was the perfect story for the NFL. We all wanted Jaylon Smith to succeed and to shine and to really complete the comeback after his injury when he was with the Fighting Irish. So it sucks, but it's unfortunately the truth, in my opinion. Jabril Cox should be getting prepared to be starting at some point of these seasons. We have over here in the chat, it said that there is still confusion in secondary. Who is the field general leader in the secondary? I think it's going to be probably Trevon Diggs. At least in the cornerback room, I think that Trevon Diggs is your clear number one guy and probably the field general. I'm not entirely sure about that, though, so I don't want to tell you any kind of lies. There's no way that I see a player fall off as much as Jaylon Smith without any explanation, says Quest. And that's the weirdest thing, by the way. Like, Jaylon had that play versus the Cardinals on Friday night, even though right now he's supposed to be 100% healthy. He's not dealing with anything right now. It's only preseason week 1. It was only week 1 of the preseason, at least. He's only going to get more hurt as the season goes on, like as is the case with every other NFL player. And it's just, I do not expect a lot more from him in 2021, unfortunately. And it's just one play, the one that we're talking about, but it's a reflection of what we've been seeing since 2019 and since 2020, and it apparently has not changed over the past few months. So I think that the freak athlete that we wanted out of Jaylon Smith is just not there. We're seeing a slow linebacker, and we're seeing a slow reaction as well. So that would be my biggest takeaway from the Cowboys-Cardinals game. Cox, Neal, and Parsons, says Bird, the first two greatest abilities coverage, and Parsons runs a 4-3, so he can run with running backs. And Micah right now, Micah is making a lot of people eat crow after every complaint that there was out there regarding the fact that the Cowboys drafted Michael Parsons. And I'm going to be honest with you, at that moment, I was kind of disappointed with the Michael Parsons pick. Not because I wanted other player, but I wanted the cornerbacks. I wanted Patrick Surtain on the Dallas Cowboys. And when the Broncos took him one pick before, I was upset. I wanted Patrick Surtain on the Cowboys. And then the Cowboys took Parsons, and I was like, well, at least they got Micah. But I was not in love with the pick because I had my mind set in the cornerbacks of that NFL draft. But right now, you can't help feeling very good about the fact that the Cowboys got number 11. Plus, he seems to have a very cool personality, and he's growing with the Dallas Cowboys in that sense. And we're getting a first look at it on Hard Knocks, by the way, which is going to be live next Tuesday, the second episode after Z Sports Dallas Primetime. Before I leave you, just wanted to give you a quick reminder that roster cuts are going to take place on Tuesday, the first 5 of them. So over the next 3 Tuesdays, we're going to get roster cuts. This one, we're going to get 5 cuts to be specific. We're going to go from 90 to 85, and then on August the 24th, we're going to go from 85 to 80, and then finally in the 31st, we'll go from 80 all the way down to 53, to the final 53-man roster. Now, it's important to keep in mind that our minds go directly to the possibility of cutting players and only cutting players. Remember that NFL teams can also do other moves, like sending a player to injured reserve in order to bring that roster number down. So, for example, if the Cowboys have decided that, you know what, Sean McKeon, and I'm just speculating here, I'm not saying that this is the actual timetable, but if they decide that Sean McKeon is not going to be back in, say, 10 weeks, maybe they want to send him right now to injured reserve and save themselves from cutting another player. So be ready for that on Tuesday, and I'm sure that on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime next Tuesday night, we'll talk about that as well. So we're getting ready to go right now. If Parsons says Big Sky, if Parsons becomes a player, everyone thinks he can be once he gets experience. They should be able to utilize him like a Lawrence Taylor, and that is one big comparison. So there you go. Let's hope that happens. I'd rather keep Gifford over Kamara just because LVE is so fragile and Jaylon is just lost. Gifford needs to be a little quicker, but the guy has great ball tracking skills. The thing I don't like about Gifford is that he's also a player that has been dealing with a lot of injuries. Jaylon is just compromised physically. He can't drive off that leg. He does things so to get around it. The Cowboys are keeping him to save face for that mistake of a contract, says Vert. And the weird thing about it is not that the weird thing about it is that we saw a healthy Jaylon in 2018. That's what keeps me up at night sometimes, thinking about Jaylon Smith. But anyways, I don't see a big name player being cut right now. Maybe a TJ Basher at the least. I think that the Cowboys might cut 2 wide receivers, by the way. They have a lot of wide receivers, a lot of prospects. And Malik Turner of course, has separated himself from the rest. But a guy like TJ Basher, I believe, is going to get cut. Or maybe Guidry, who had not seen a lot during the preseason. Maybe Dixon could also be cut. I think that we're going to see 2 cuts from the wide receiver group in the first 2 sets, at least, of roster cuts. We will see on Tuesday. But anyways, thank you for joining me tonight. That will be it for me on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Remember that we're streaming this show every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night. RB Nightmare, right on cue, saying Olonilua can also go to IR. Shewo Olonilua also suffered an injury, and he could be headed to injured reserve. Now remember, any player that goes to IR before making the 53-man roster cannot return during the entire season. So hit the like button, as Rue is saying. Thank you, Rue, and thank you, Stevie Mac, also for your support as always. You can catch ADC Sports Dallas Primetime every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. And of course, make sure you check out Sky tomorrow morning on ADC Sports Live. And of course, get ready for the regular season. Go to adcsportsdallas.com and check all of our articles over there. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Had a lot of fun. We were able to meet Big Sky, so I'm excited about that as well. And thank you all for your support. I will be here next Tuesday night. Have a great start to the week, and thank